welcome to my channel. Well, I haven't done a video in a while because I didn't have anything I could really think about, talking about that I hadn't talked about before. But I watch different videos, knife channels and stuff like that from time to time. And one of them I watched was Survival Lily. And I like her voice. That accent, the German accent. But she was talking about knives she would recommend and wouldn't recommend for a survival situation or something like that. And one of the ones that she said she wouldn't recommend was a Swiss Army knife. And the reason is because a Swiss Army knife got her when she was first using it. It actually, closed on her hand and did some nerve damage and stuff like that. So it's understandable why she wouldn't recommend one of those. But my thoughts are different on this, Now, out of all these different types of knives, which one is the safest? What do we mean by safe? Oh, well, like not getting cut. You know what? Every one of these type of knives has cut me. If it's sharp, it's cut me. Fixed blade, folding blade. So if you're saying you don't want to recommend, now I'm not critical of Lee. I'm just saying I disagree with some of the stuff she has to say on that, and it's like respectfully disagree. Like not trying to slam her or anything else. I understand where she's coming from. But to say that this knife is bad or dangerous to a novice or something like that, you know what? Sooner or later, you're either going to give up on slip joints or you're going to learn how to use them. And it's not just holding it like this. This is what she was saying. This is the only way you can hold this knife safely. No. If she said otherwise, I didn't see it, but you can hold it like this. All right, this is a natural kind of grip. We had something on my hand model. This is a natural grip, and with you holding it like this, it's not gonna cut you. I mean, you're gonna feel it closing on you because you're on the kick. You're not. Yeah, it's tricky. It's trickier. All knives can be misused. Inserting, withdrawing a knife from a sheath can cut you, even if it's a fixed blade. Yeah, you don't have to worry about the pivot folding on you. You can still get cut on a fixed blade. If it doesn't have a guard like this and you're doing something stupid, your hand can run up on it. Believe me, if there's a way to cut yourself with a knife, safety third, I've figured out how to do it. Just opening a knife, I've cut myself. With this type, not with this one, but with a thumb stud flipper, I've cut myself pretty badly on Ontario Rat 1 one time. Just trying to open it, just messing around. And my thumb slipped off, and somehow I cut myself. So the thing about using knives is if you know how to use them, no one type of knife is more dangerous to you than any other. If you know what you're doing, it just requires. I think these are perfectly fine to give to a kid because, of course, if you teach them how to do that, they're still going to cut themselves, and you're going to find out whether or not you've got a child that likes knives or not, because we'd all go through life getting cuts and scrapes and stuff like that, and to shy away from something just because you don't know how to properly use. If you don't know how to properly use a tool, don't just say that this tool is not recommendable. Or this one is because it has a locking blade. I mean, she goes through the reasoning behind it and stuff, but like I said, on that particular case, or on folding knives in general, yes, they can get you. All knives can get you. If you know what you're doing with a knife, And you know when you're doing something wrong, you can cut down. You can reduce the number of cuts you give to yourself by practicing a little bit of safety. And one of them is, and it's not an absolute. They always say, never cut toward yourself. What about a draw cut? Have you ever cut an apple doing like this? Ooh, that's dangerous. No, it isn't if you know what you're doing. Yeah, it cuts through the apple, and your thumb is the anchor. But usually, unless you're doing like a slice and stuff, unless it's like super duper sharp or you're going excessively hard, you can feel when the apple is beginning to stop, and you don't have to go all the way to the end. There's a proper way to use everything, and there's an improper way. And I've experienced pretty much all the improper ways of doing things, You're showing off trying to do a Spidey flick, and you miss or somehow. I don't think I've cut myself trying to do a Spidey flick, but I've come close. And there are other times, when you're doing something with a knife, mostly it's plastic with me and cutting towards myself. I've got the scars to prove that one, but sometimes a knife just like gives you a little warning. It just barely, the cut just barely draws blood. And then other times, man, you might have to go to the hospital. You've done some serious damage. And that's because you didn't listen to the other little warnings. The knife was trying to tell you, hey, you're using me improperly. I'm going to give you a little touch, a little love tap, just to let you know that you could have lost a finger that time if you put more force behind it or you kept doing what you were doing. And it's with all things, If you don't read the signals, if you don't understand the warnings, don't be surprised when you get that big cut, because you were doing something wrong, like a lot of people have done this with a Foley knife to close it. I've done it before. You open a knife, and to close it, you go to the back. You use the back of your leg to break the action. I know someone recently who did that to themselves with a small knife, but still, they cut themselves open pretty well. I know of a couple of cases like that. I'm not going to mention names. It's out there. You can search for it. They're honest about their mistake. They say what they did. They admit it. We all slip up from time to time, but again, that was, you're asking for it. You may have gotten away with it, a bunch of times, like with buck knives. I've taken a buck knife like this and held it by the blade and slapped it open like that. But, or throwing knives, it bounces back off, something comes back at you. Believe me, like I said, if there's a way to cut yourself with a knife, I've done it. Now, fortunately, I haven't, one of the worst ones was when I was a kid. I was working on model airplanes, always building airplanes and stuff like that, and building models. And they always come with this plastic sprue, and the best thing for a sprue is a razor blade. Well, all I had access to was what they call safety razor blades. They're not safe the way I was carrying it. It's a double-edged razor blade. I'd use it to cut stuff because it was available, in Dad's bathroom or whatever, Mom and Dad's bathroom. Dad had razors, and he always had spare razor blades, and sure enough, I'd just go in there and snag one and cut plastic. Well, for some reason, I stuck it in my blue jeans pocket and went about my merry way. Well, it carries very well in a pocket until you reach in. And I think it was my left hand, yeah. I keep telling everybody, this is a scar, this is not a wrinkle. This happened when I was very young, and I'm like 66 now. So, that scar right there taught me something, is like, an exposed blade is just a cut waiting to happen if you're carrying it incorrectly. So all I'm saying on that is I disagree. I disagree that you would not find this useful in a SHTF situation. Any Swiss Army knife, any multi-tool, that has a non-locking blade. Because, yeah, the chances are greater that you might cut yourself, but you're not going to survive a survival situation if you can't handle a slip joint. I'm sorry. There's no use preparing for the rest of that stuff. If that's going to throw you off, then you're going to have a rough time. I mean, it's not necessarily guaranteed. Sometimes the least likely people you think would survive somehow manage to pull it through. A lot of that is luck, because in nature is unforgiving. If you don't get shelter and food and water and stuff quickly, you're going to be toast. I mean, there's only so much a human body can take, and then after that it's like, hey. And a lot of times all you got, your biggest survival thing is what's in your head. It's your knowledge. You could have the best tools in the world, but if you don't know how to use them, they might as well be useless. They might as well be a danger to you. And I think that's what she was trying to get through on that. It's like, what would I recommend to, just a general person, a locking blade if you're going to have a folding knife. But she was kind of like dismissing folding knives entirely as a utility. Well, the good thing about folding knives is they're inconspicuous and they're easy to carry. Easy to carry. If you've got like a long barreled weapon, for reach and everything, and you need to go to a stream, but it's bulky and everything, and you leave it back at your camp. Well, guess what's going to be more handy? A revolver or a pistol, something that you can keep on you, because it's the same thing with a pocket knife. You got it on you rather than back on a camp or somewhere else. And so, yeah, these are not the best tools in the world for everything, but they're the best tools in the world if you don't have any tools. So that's just my thought on it, and about knife safety. Like, don't look to me for knife safety. Look to me for knife accidents, because I know what I'm supposed to do and not supposed to do, but every once in a while the knife has to remind me, hey, you keep this up, and you're going to be known as Three Finger Willie, or something like that, because, you could just scale it up. You're messing around with little knives, and then you start getting bigger knives, and you're still doing the same bad habits. A big knife is going to cut you a lot worse when it comes down than a little knife. And so, but, like I said, don't discount little knives, because some of the smallest knives I've got or ever had have cut me the most, cut me the deepest, because my stupidity. It was my fault. It wasn't the knife's fault. The knife's just doing what a knife's gonna do. The knife wants to cut. It doesn't care if it's you, a piece of wood, an animal. It doesn't care. It wants to cut. And it's kind of like having a pet rattlesnake, You can think it's a pet rattlesnake, but go ahead and try to pet that sucker. Like, he's friendly to you, but you caught him in a bad dream, and all he thought was something coming up at him. So he did what rattlesnakes do, they strike at heat. And he's a pit viper. So yeah, you're not really carrying a pit viper in your hand, but it could be. If you treat it like it's just nothing, like, oh, this is nothing. It doesn't cost much. It can't hurt. Yeah, go ahead. You won't have that attitude very long. But I think most people, once you learn, you kind of avoid the big cuts after a while. I mean, no guarantee. I'm not trying to jinx myself or something future. Guess why? You know why Will's not making videos recently? He's been in the hospital. He cut himself again. This time seriously. Hey, that could happen. Because, like I said, if you don't pay attention to the signals the knife's giving you, they're going to give you a stronger signal. And you don't want that. So even though safety third, try to think of safety every time you pick up a knife and you go to use it, because it's that lax attitude. It's that casual, I know what I'm doing, I've done this, I'm old enough, I'm older than dirt. You know, I was around before knives were invented. You know, yeah, go ahead, keep thinking that way. And knives, sharp objects have been cutting cavemen. You know, I wonder what this is. Ah! Yeah, they find out, and sometimes pain. Sometimes pain is a very good teaching method. We learn from, usually, we either learn from our mistakes or we repeat them. And if you keep repeating mistakes with knives, you're going to wind up regretting it one of these days. And in the end, don't blame the knife, all right? Man up or woman up or whatever gender up you want to call yourself, and admit that you made a mistake. The knife didn't make a mistake. You made a mistake. So there you go. That's my ramble on it. A lot of this applies to me. I'm not singling out anybody like Peppy or Dewey or anything like that, or Boris or Ted, who's sleeping over there. He's snoring. He's got his mouth open. You can't. I wonder if he snores. No, he doesn't snore. They say he doesn't make any noise when he's snoring, but he's snoring. Huh. Well, that's strange. Anyways, thank you for watching, and have a nice day.